prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yalla la la la, 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 yalla la la la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yalla la la la, 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 yalla la la la. Shana Tova, everyone, and Gamar Chatima Tova. It is lovely to see you all here this morning. Thank you for being with us on this holy day. My name is Rabbi Robin Spar. It is a great joy and honor to share the leadership responsibilities with my colleague and also seminary mate, Rabbi Dan Betzel. Please be sure that you have with you the Machzor for Yom Kippur. Spencer will put the link in the chat if he hasn't done so already, if you need the flip book. But you might have a physical version or a Kindle version. We won't share most pages from the Machzor since we hope that you can access one of these other versions. Couple of words about Zoom. Make sure that you know how to turn your camera and your microphone on and off. You're certainly welcome to keep your camera on at all times, but you are also equally welcome to not have your camera on if that's your preference. Additionally, you will mostly be asked to keep your mic on mute, but there will be some occasions when we'll invite you to unmute, especially when we have a breakout room, or there will be some places where we ask you to read responsively, or particularly around things like the Mourner's Kaddish, where we really do want to have the holy cacophony of being in community together. On the off chance Zoom fails or you have an outage, you can always try to jump back in again. If for some reason you can't get back in or we really cannot run on Zoom, we will try to stream on our YouTube channel, which is TEMV Lowell. If you don't manage to find us there either, well then, since you have now equipped yourself with a machzor, you can certainly spend the day in prayer or reflection or learning with this truly amazing machzor that has so many inspiring readings and opportunities for learning and reflection. With that, I turn it over to Rabbi Betzel.
Boker Tov, Shana Tova. So our service this morning is really a continuation of what we started last night with Kol Nidre. And our sages asked, so how do we know when it's time to begin the Shacharit prayers on Yom Kippur? And one sage taught that night ends and morning begins when you can distinguish between the blue and the white threads on your talit. And another sage said, well, no, it's from the time you can distinguish a friend from a distance of 4 cubits or about 6 feet. But then a third said, perhaps the new day begins when you finally can see that the face of everyone you meet is your brother and or your sister. So please join with me on page 132 for the blessing for putting on the talit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahit atef, to wrap ourselves, lahit atef b'tzitzit. Amen. Please turn to page 136 and 137 And I invite you to take the next few minutes for quiet contemplation regarding fasting, or for those who are not fasting.
Rabbi Betzel, you are muted.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai, the blessings for study on page 142. So I always love it that the Hebrew word that we'll say in a moment, la asok, literally means to soak or to immerse ourselves in. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, to soak, to immerse ourselves in the words of Torah. So having said the blessing for study, we're now obligated to engage in study together, which we'll do in just a few moments in our breakout rooms. But first, page 155. So 155, the divine voice. I chose this reading because it talks about the name of God, the Yud He Vav He, that is written on the souls of everyone. And my prayer is that we will always see this divine image, the Yud He Vav He, the divine spark that is imprinted on all those that we meet. This summer, I took a meditation course. There it is. It looks like a human, Yud He Vav He. This summer, I took a meditation course, and the teacher encouraged us for our meditation to find a picture of someone that maybe we find it difficult to be with, or that we would like to forgive and find it difficult, and actually write on top of the picture the Yud He Vav He, and to meditate. And it was a very, very powerful experience for me. So page 155, the divine voice speaks to Moses from the burning bush. Ehyeh asher ehyeh, I am who I am. This is the name and self-description of the one in whose image we are made. Our God-likeness is at the essence of our humanness, and this story teaches that we are endowed with dignity and deserving of self-acceptance and respect by virtue of our being human. On Yom Kippur, when we are inclined to self-doubt and perhaps harsh self-criticism, we can be uplifted and regain our lost dignity in the sure knowledge that however we have failed ourselves or others, or failed before God, Ehyeh asher ehyeh, I am as I am. I have come to appreciate how many of us, despite our accomplishments, Our advanced degrees and our worldliness can also be so fragile, anxious about our place in our families in the world, haunted by internal voices of rebuke and disappointment. But God answers us in love, Ehyeh asher ehyeh, just as you are, however broken in spirit, however far you have wandered from your imagined path, however burdened or disappointed you may be. You and I each stand here as a reflection and image of the Holy One. So we're going to be doing some Havruta study. Spencer, I'm just going to put some questions in the chat box, and we'll break out in our study sessions for maybe 6 or 7 minutes, and then we'll come back. Can everybody see the questions? Excellent. 50. Give it a second here. Page 157. The gift of honor. Ben Azai used to say, treat no one with scorn, regard nothing as useless, for all people have their moment and all things have their place. Diamonds, when found in the ground, may look like worthless pieces of glass. It takes an expert to see the precious gem that is hidden within. Become an expert in human beings. Learn to see each one as a diamond in the rough. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei kol basar umafli la'asot. Blessed are you, God, who performs the miracles of creation and healing. Page 170.
Psalm 150, the final psalm in the book of Psalms, is certainly full of joy and celebration. And the last line that we have here in our Siddur is, Kol haneshama tehallel, hallelujah. Every breath praises God. And so let us take a moment to breathe deeply into our holiness. And then we'll sing the Pretorius, Kol haneshama. Let's just take a moment. Breathe deeply and feel your presence, your being, and your holiness. Kol haneshama tehalel ya, hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya, hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Page 177. What color is grass? What color is grass? The hurried eye said green. But following the sheen of spring woods, their stretched meadows marbled in such hues of yellow-green, red-green, and blues merging below, between, above. What color is grass? The thoughtful eye said love. What color is love? The harried heart said flame. But following the changing years, their poured prisms of delight and spectrum flowed out of the name paling moon, stars, and sun. What color is love? The knowing heart said one. Page 176.
Yitkada ve'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah ve'yama divra chirutei ve'yamlich malchutei בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי המיה יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה ולעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא ואמרו amen. We rise in body or spirit for Baruch Hu and Shema Uv'Yirchateha. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 181. Those who dwell as scientists or laymen among the beauties and mysteries of the earth are never alone or weary of life. Whatever the vexations or concerns of their personal lives, their thoughts can find paths that lead to inner contentment and renewed excitement in living. Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts. There is symbolic as well as actual beauty in the migration of the birds, the ebb and flow of the tides, the folded bud ready for the spring. There is something infinitely healing in the repeated refrains of nature, the assurance that dawn comes after night and spring after the winter. Page 186.
Every time we come to Shema during these high holy days, we take a moment to deeply engage with what it means, what the words mean, the unity of God, the oneness and universality of the eternal. After we chant Shema, please take a few moments to consider the additional texts on pages 186 and 187, or just the meditations of your own heart. When you feel like your meditations are completed, then you may be seated or resume your presence for the next section of our service. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. On page 188. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Page 191. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. Thus you will become holy to your God. I, Adonai, am your God, who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, your God. Adonai Elohechem emet. Adonai, your God, is true. God works miracles with a yad chazak, with a mighty hand. But with the Egyptian army in pursuit, Moses took a breath, held out his arm over the sea, and a strong east wind blew all night and turned the sea to dry ground. In the dark, we wait for deliverance from Mitzrayim, from the narrow places, to enter our promised land. God's ruach, or spirit, through the night brings peace, rest, and courage to walk into the sea on dry land, though the rolling wall of waters are on each side. We face the fears that challenge us. We give breath to calm the fear that enwraps us. We draw strength from our community and we cheer each other on. We sing, we shall overcome. I shall overcome. We are not afraid. I am not afraid. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Page 196.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. שירה חדשה, שיבחו גלים, לשמך שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני מלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופתחנו לך יהודה וישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We call to mind the lives of our ancient fathers and mothers, asking ourselves how we might be challenged and motivated by their examples. Zochrenu l'chaim. We remember their lives and pray to be remembered by future generations. May our deeds be deeds of goodness and life. Then our own hands will enter our names in the book of life. We pray we might encounter the power whose gift is our capacity to search for connections between each other, our ancestors, and ourselves. Page 198.
Please rise in body or spirit for the Amidah. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 200. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaNorah, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevig Ula Livnei Vneihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, page 202. Zochrenu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chotvenu b'sefer hachaim, lemancha Elohim chaim, melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 204. Atah Gibor, Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atzarav Lehoshia, Morid Hatah. Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Nofelim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar. Micha mocha ba'al gevurot u'midom melech. Melech meimit u'mchayei u'matmiach Yeshua. Micha mocha el harachamim, zocher yatzurav l'chaim berachamim. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
Page 207. In truth, you are judge, as a shepherd considers the flock. Judge and shepherd play different roles. The shepherd who has his sheep pass under his staff is the same shepherd who makes me lie down in green pastures, who restores my soul. Psalms 23. The shepherd's job is to protect his sheep from predators and accidents, thirst and starvation, and to find and rescue them if they wander off and become lost. How can one be both judge and shepherd? Parents who impose expectations upon us may also care for us. A teacher who grades us may also encourage us. An employer who could fire us may stop us from doing something foolish, steer us back on course, and never tell a soul. Page 208.
ונצנע תוקף קדושת היום, כי הוא נורא ואיום, ובוא תנשא מלכותך, וייכון בחסד כיסאך, ותשב עליו באמת, אמת, כי אתה הוא דיין ומוכיח ויודע ועד, וחותם וסופר ומונה, ותזכור כל הנשכחות, ותפתח את ספר Otam yad kol adam bo.
An alternative, unatana tokif. On Rosh Hashanah, it is written, on Yom Kippur, it is sealed, that this year people will live and die, some more gently than others, and nothing lives forever. But amidst overwhelming forces of nature and humankind, we still write our own book of life, and our actions are the words in it, and the stages of our lives are the chapters, and nothing goes unrecorded, ever. Every deed counts. Everything you do matters. And we never know what act or word will leave an impression or tip the scale. So if not now, then when? For the things we can change, there is teshuvah, realignment. For the things we cannot change, there is tefillah, prayer. For the help we can give, there is tzedakah, justice. Together, let us write a beautiful book of life for the Holy One to read. Please rise in body or spirit for the Kedusha, page 218.
נקדיש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ, כבודו, אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור. Hallelujah.
Page 223 at the bottom. To be awake is to be alive. Only that day dawns to which we are awake. One cannot help but be in awe when one contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. Never lose a holy curiosity. Wisdom begins with awe of the eternal. Page 228.
קדוש אתה ונורא שמך, ואין אלוהך מבלעדיך, ככתוב, ויגבר אדוני צבאות במשפט, והאל הקדוש נקדש בצדקה. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך, המלך, המלך הקדוש. silence at your own pace through page 246. Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom, sim shalom. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה ניזכר וניכתב לפניך אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ושלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
Page 252.
We rise before the open ark. We will read Avinu Malkeinu responsively. I should have said we rise in body or spirit, as is your custom. And hopefully we have an open ark in just a moment. We'll read alternating in English. I will start, and then I invite Rabbi Betzel and all of you to respond to each one. Spencer, do you have the open ark picture? Our Father, our King, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Our Mother, our Queen, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Our Parent, our Sovereign, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Our Father, our King, renew us for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Our Mother, our Queen, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Our Parent, our Sovereign, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Our Father, our King, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Our Parent, our Sovereign, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'Anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'Anenu, Ki Ein Banu Masim. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah V'Chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu malkeinu, chanenu v'anenu. Avinu malkeinu, chanenu v'anenu, ki ein banu masim. On page 256, we remove the Torah from the ark. I think we have a new picture for this. And we have Shema and Echad, which we sing in repetition. And so I will sing the melody that is unusual for the high holidays, and I invite you all to sing the melody that you know in response for each of these lines in the middle of page 256. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. We sing together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora Shemo. Together, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti, Uneromim Shemo yachdav. I invite you to be seated, be comfortable as we enter the Torah service and the Torah reading. Very excited this morning to welcome two Torah readers to the Bima. The first Torah reader is Rachel. Ta'amod Rachel Bat Simcha Upnina. She will be reading from the beginning of Nitzavim. If you'd like to follow the text, it is on page 266, beginning at verse 9. For this Aliyah, we invite all of those who feel that they are seeking some guidance or strength. This is an opportunity for an Aliyah for you looking for guidance and strength. Let us look at the Torah blessings together on page 258. That's where the Torah blessings are. The reading is on page 266. Let's sing these blessings together. Page 258. Please feel free to unmute your mics so that we are in community as we pray together. 1, 2, 3. Baruch Hu et
Adonai
Adonai
Hamarah,
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Leolam
Vaed,
Baruch
Baruch
Adonai Baruch atah
Adonai
Adonai
Eloheinu
melech
melech
haolam
haolam,
asher
asher
banu
banu
mikol
mikol
ha'amim
ha'amim,
ונתן
נתן
לנו
לנו
את
את
תורתו
תורתו,
ברוך
ברוך
אתה
אתה
אדוני
אדוני
נותן
נותן התורה.
אמן. Rachel, I hope you are unmuted. I cannot tell. Oh, did we lose Rachel? Oh, Rachel, you are on mute. It's a very quiet Torah reading. You're still on mute. There you are.
Am I good?
You are wonderful. Amen.
Amen. Item nitzavim hayom luhem litnei Adonai Eloheim. Roshehem shiftehem tziktehem v'shotrehem kol ish Yisrael. Hapehem nitzehem v'gerha asher b'kerev mahaneha v'hotei beitzeha ad shohev meimeha Avraham bivri Adonai Elohecha uvalato asher Adonai Elohecha korem hayom.
Let's sing that second blessing together. Those of you who are taking this aliyah, don't forget to unmute yourselves for the second blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu
Eloheinu melech
melech
haolam,
haolam
asher
asher
natan
natan
לנו תורה ואמת,
בחיי
בחיי
עולם
עולם נחתה בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yashkochech, Rachel. Before we go to the second aliyah, we pause for Misha Berach in our own community. We think of Leslie Baskin and Karen Force, of David Gilmore and Albert Glassman, Leslie Gregg and Sandy Klein, Esther Land, Jane Main, Rachel Rand, David Singer, Hezekiah Sudal, Janie Weissman, Rhoda Doppler-Levy and Larry Levy, Leah Bat-Babette, Elisheva Bat-Babette, and Carrie Monahan. If there are others who you are thinking about and wishing to send energy for healing and recovery, I encourage you to please unmute and speak their names aloud, or if you would rather, you may put their names in the chat.
Leslie Gregg, Lisa Troy, Rabbi Ann Brenner, Sonny Flesher.
Thank you.
Seth Isaacs,
Sylvia Bugby.
Thank you.
Seth Isaacs, Melissa Isaacs, Molly Isaacs, Dylan Isaacs, Charlie Isaacs, Jack Isaacs, and Ben Isaacs.
Sekalat Milton Kumara.
Thank you. Mike Hayes, Karen Amos, Alex Lehner, Catherine Torlin, Andy Funk, Carol Spar, Phyllis Worlin. The words we will sing are from Nava Tehillah. I am not certain if you have a slide for that, Spencer. If you do, and you can put that up, that would be great. Anna Elna Refanala Thank you, sponsor. May all of our loved ones find healing through these days of awe and in the days ahead. We come to our second aliyah. It's a great honor to call up Jim Zuiza. Ya'amod Shmuel Yosef ben Tzir Gelia. This reading will be found on page 268, beginning at verse 19, or of course, you can follow it on the slide in front of us. It begins at the first pink line. This aliyah is, of course, for all of those who just feel like they need a little koach, a little strength from receiving an aliyah. Please unmute your mics if you will participate in this aliyah so that we can chant together in community. The blessings again on page 258. 1, 2, 3. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Asher nanu et Torato. Baruch
Can you hear me, Rabbi?
We can.
Excellent. Haidoti vachem hayom et hashamayim et haaretz hachayim vehamavet natati lefanecha habraha ve'akela uvhartat behayim Iman tihyeh ata v'zarecha ata v'zarecha ahava et Adonai elecha Ishma dekolo dav kavo ki hu vayeha ve'orech yameha lashevet al ha'adama asher nishpa Adonai lavoteha Avraham Yitzhak Yaakov Latet Lahem.
Let us chant the second blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah Baruch atah Torah. Amen. Yasher kochachem to both Jim and Rachel for their beautiful readings of Torah. If you have never chanted Torah before, then I can't even begin to describe for you the amount of work and learning and study and nerve-wracking feeling often people feel right before they chant Torah. So thank you very much for your beautiful chantings. They really were spectacular. We are going to move into the sermon in just a moment. I'm going to ask that you have patience with me for just a second so that I can actually read my sermon off my desk instead of off paper, which will make it a little bit easier for me to connect with you. So I apologize for the pause. I will be right back. If you'd like to take a little bit of a seventh inning stretch, this is a great time to do that. Shana Tova. According to the Torah portion we read on Rosh Hashanah last week, we are meant to work for 6 days every week, and then, in accordance with one of the first mitzvot in the Torah, rest on the 7th day and make it holy. This was a pretty radical idea in its time, that every week workers would take an entire day off to rest, to study, and to refresh themselves. In fact, not only are Jewish people supposed to take a day of rest, but so too are their employees and even their farm animals. But did you know that we also have a year-long Shabbat every seventh year? In Exodus 23, verses 10 through 11, we read, "For 6 years you are to sow your land and to gather in its produce. But in the seventh you are to let it go and let it be, that the needy of your people may eat, and what remains, the wildlife of the field shall eat. Do thus with your vineyard and also with your olive grove." Our ancestors followed these guidelines, and although they may not have understood the science behind it, we now know that allowing fields to lie fallow allows the soil to regenerate, nutrients to flourish, and also prevents erosion. It is simply good land management to follow these practices. In addition to agricultural lands being allowed to lie fallow, our rabbinic sages teach in the Shemitah year, debts are to be forgiven, private land holdings are to be made open to the commons, and staples such as food storage and perennial harvests are to be freely redistributed and accessible to all. These practices provided a nearly complete redistribution of wealth every seventh year, one that substantially closed the gap between rich and poor, bringing everyone back to a narrower range of material comfort. It was, in a way, the kind of equality and equity that many progressives today are seeking for everyone in our country. This year, 5782, is a Shemitah year, and in Israel this is taken quite seriously. But for those of us living outside of Israel, and indeed for those of us whose lives are not centered in agricultural work, how are we to observe and celebrate Shemitah? If we want to think about Shemitah more literally as stewardship of the earth, an obvious and easy connection is to environmentalism and climate change. As a congregation, we have demonstrated our collective commitment to cherishing and protecting the earth and her resources, and in our choices regarding power, reusable dishes, recycling, and even in the plantings around our former building. One way that we can embrace Shemitah observance this year is by assessing and modifying our personal use of resources, power, water, and even how much more stuff we purchase than we actually need or will use. But today I'd like to invite you to think about this Shemitah year more metaphorically. Just as the land needs to have a Shemitah year, we need Shemitah moments to lay fallow and breathe, to rejuvenate. When land lies fallow for a year, nutrients return. When we lie fallow, when we breathe, pause, rest, we can be more productive. A weekly Shabbat, especially during these uncertain times, is not enough. We definitely need Shemitah moments throughout this entire year. I'd like to share a story with you. Once upon a time, there were two woodcutters named Max and Josh. They were often at loggerheads over who chopped more wood. So one day they decided they would hold a competition to determine the winner, who was the fastest and most productive chopper. The rules were simple. Whoever produced the most wood in a day would win. The next morning, both of them took up their positions in the forest and started chopping away at their fastest possible speed. This went on for about an hour before Max suddenly stopped. When Josh realized there was no chopping sound from his opponent's side of the forest, he thought, "Ha, he must be tired already." And Josh gleefully continued to cut down his trees as fast as he could. Well, a quarter of an hour passed, and Josh heard his opponent chopping again, and they both carried on synchronously throughout the day. Josh was starting to feel weary when the chopping from Max stopped again. Feeling motivated and smelling victory close at hand, Josh continued on with a smile on his face. This went on all day long. Every hour, Max would stop chopping for about 15 minutes while Josh kept going relentlessly. When the day ended and the competition concluded, Josh was absolutely confident he would triumph. But to Josh's amazement, Max had actually cut down more wood. How could this be? How could you have chopped down more trees than I did? I heard you stop working every hour for about 15 minutes, said Josh. Max replied, well, it's really simple. Every time I stopped work, while you were still chopping down trees, I was sharpening my axe. Everybody, everywhere, seems to be busy. Most people are just too busy doing and trying to achieve, and they do not take the time to renew themselves, to learn and to grow, to sharpen the axe. While sharpening the axe might be understood as applying ourselves to still more activities that have the potential to sap our energy, there's real value in not filling the empty space. Sometimes sharpening our axe is in the act of merely existing and retuning ourselves to our authentic selves. Our overwork makes us into human doings instead of human beings. Sometimes the message we come away with at the high holidays is to do more. More teshuvah, more work, more improvement, change ourselves, try harder. What if we just let ourselves be? Rabbi David Ingber of Romemu offers this teaching. Rav Kook paints a picture of Shemitah as enabling a renewed connection to the divine life force in each individual and within us collectively. Like Shabbat, Shemitah quiets the tumult of the intervening periods and restores a more authentic relationship to ourselves, to each other, to nature, and to God. Something miraculous happens when we stop. We get to experience the power that nature knows called dormancy. Dormancy, that which is holding, the heartbeat that rests, the hibernating animals, all of winter, waiting and waiting. There are seeds inside each and every one of us, inside this culture, that cannot emerge because we do not know that dormancy does not mean death. Resting does not mean disappearing. What keeps us from stopping is that we are terrified of resting. We're afraid of the imaginative, terrible things that we will feel in the quiet. We fear that when we stop, even for a moment, the sheer enormity of our lives will overwhelm us. Our outspoken and unspoken fears, they speed up our lives. Like a stone being thrown over a lake, we have learned to skip so we don't get wet. And we're terrified that if we let the stone fall, we will disappear. And so we think that our speed will save us from the void. We dance around the security that is offered from touching what is underneath the speed. Can we let go of the obsession of finishing what can't be finished? Negative space is not a void. The Torah is described as being black fire written on white fire, that both the letters and the blank parchment together comprise Torah in its wholeness. What we think of as the empty space allows the message to be revealed. When we look at a painting or a photograph, the subject cannot capture our attention without the negative space from which it must emerge. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel once said, "We should live our lives as if painting a work of art." And he suggests that we find enjoyment in the process of creation rather than looking forward to completing the masterpiece. Rabbi Margaret Frisch-Klein shared this wisdom from a congregant. The spaces between prayers are as important as the prayers themselves. We need those moments to let it sink in before jumping to the next. The drummer, Adam Guth, wrote on the recent death of Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts. What Charlie did was not simple. Less notes is not simple. For every note, there's a rest. So something is always happening. A rest is not a void. Charlie Watts manipulated time and space to set billions of feet to dancing. There's nothing simple about that. Violinist Isaac Stern has said, music is what goes on between the notes. When conducting choirs over the years, I've always talked about how the rests and the breaths are what breathe life into the music. Rest for the land and for ourselves is critical. Resting provides us with the opportunity to resist the identity of ourselves as a means of production. Instead of being what we do or what we create, we can be what we are in a sacred state of being. Rest gives permission for the emergence of something else, something new, or something more deeply primal and true. For some inspiring ideas about rest, please consider, after today, Googling the Nap Ministry, which advises, among other things, disrupt and push back against a system that views you as a machine. You are not a machine. You are a divine human being. We will rest. My call to action for you this day of reflection is this: do less. Sleep more. Let go of expectations. Consider, what are you willing to release this year? Use this year to pause and evaluate what matters to you. What's important to you? What is your purpose? As Mary Oliver has written, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I beg you, please remember, it is not selfish to show up for yourself and rest. It is the nourishment that you need so that you can subsequently show up for others. Before we move into the closing sections of our service, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to my partner, Rabbi Dan Betzel, and our tech guru, Spencer Rothman, our president, Karen Lipshires, and everyone on our board, our educator, Leslie Smith-Rosen, and our teachers and our staff, and every person and contributor who works endlessly and tirelessly behind the scenes to make these services and every TEMV offering possible. Their often invisible work is so much greater than you might imagine. And I sincerely pray that each of them will intentionally and selfishly carve out Shemitah space for themselves in the weeks ahead. I'm going to put just a few of these words into the chat for you to consider in just a moment. Before I do, I would like to share with you, and I'm going to have Spencer share with you in a second, something for your own refreshment and renewal from the musician Jesse Romer, whose mother Sue Romer was one of the first invested cantors and was one of my mentors. She writes, I've been thinking a lot about the connection between art, prayer, and Shemitah, how they serve the same function, inviting us to stop, to be in the moment, and to be entranced by creation. Here is her beautiful offering in honor of the Shemitah year. It is called Sech Años, and I will put a few notes from my speech. In the meantime, enjoy this gift. Page 289.
God still speaks to us of the land. Strengthen the land with love and love the land with all your being. Feel the land on your skin and in your soul. Feel the history that brings you to this moment. Set Hebrew words upon your hearts, and on your lips it's poetry, it's music, the grammar of vines and fig trees, gnarled letters like trees of knowledge before your eyes, a forest of knowledge. Kiss the children of the land, for they are the doorposts, they are the gates. Page 293. Because I was angry, because I didn't think, because I was exhausted and on the edge, because I'd been drinking, because I can be mean, because I was reckless and selfish, because I was worried about money, because my marriage was dead, because other people were doing it, because I thought I could get away with it, because I did something wrong. Because I'm in pain, because I wish I could undo it, because I hurt him, because I lost her trust, because I let them down, because I was self-destructive, because I was foolish, because I'm ashamed, because that's not who I am, because that's not who I want to be, because I want to be forgiven. God, bring down my walls of defensiveness and self-righteousness. Help me to stay in humility. Please give me the strength to do what's right. Page 296.
Rabbi, you're muted. I don't know if you know that.
Thank you. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu tavo lefanecha tfilatenu ve'al titala mitchinatenu she'en anachnu azefanim וכשעורב לומר לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו אבל אנחנו חטאנו Avinu Pashanu. At the bottom of page 296, we list this long list of our community ways in which we have missed the target. If you'd like to know what it is we are confessing, you can read the English. We will sing these in response, so I will lead each one and ask you to repeat them. In the middle of each little section of them, there's the ay 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 chorus. It is a tradition well, when I was growing up, people used to pound on their chest for each one of these chets, each one of these misses. But I think a more lovely interpretation is that we are meant to knock at our heart, to tap gently on our chest, and to awaken our heart and our best selves. Ay, 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 ay. Ashamnu,
Ashamnu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Divarnu Dofi,
Ibanu Tofik.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. He'evinu.
Heivinu.
Vehirshanu.
Vehishanu.
Zadnu.
Zadnu.
Hamasnu.
Hamasnu.
Tafalnu shaker.
Tafalnu shaker.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ya'atznu-ra.
Ya'atznu-ra.
Izavnu.
Kizavnu.
Latznu.
Latznu.
Naradnu.
Aradnu.
Ni'atnu.
Ni'atznu.
Sararnu.
Saranu.
Avinu.
Avinu.
Ashanu.
Ashanu.
Sararnu.
Saranu.
Kishinu oref.
Kishinu Oref.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Rashanu.
Rashanu.
Shichatnu.
Shichatnu.
Iavnu.
Hiavnu.
Ta'inu.
Ta'inu.
Titanu.
Titanu.
Ay, 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 ay. On page 306, the long confession, the vidui. We will read alternatingly. I will lead and Rabbi Betzel will answer, and I invite all of you to read responsively. Please unmute yourselves that we may daven in community. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, under duress and by choice, and harm we have caused in your world consciously and unconsciously.
I'm on the wrong page. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, on page 300. I may have announced the wrong page. We're on page 300.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through our thoughtlessness and harm we have caused in your world through impulsive
Of mouth.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by abusing our power, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Page 302.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by giving in to our hostile impulses and harm
Harm
we
we
have
have
caused
caused in your world through inflexibility and stubbornness.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world by making light of serious matters.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, in our routine
Routine conversations
Harm
and harm we have caused in your world through envy.
Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, telach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, telach lanu mechalanu, telach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. Page 304.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, openly and secretly, and
Harm we have caused in your world by hating without cause.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by losing control, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink.
al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through sexual
Immorality
Harm we've
and
caused
harm
in
we
your
have
world
caused in your world by hardening our hearts.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through greed and exploitation, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business.
306. Al chet shechetanu lefanecha, through our
Our
innermost
innermost thoughts and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by offering or accepting bribes, and harm we
And
have
harm
caused in your
caused
world
by
by profaning your
name
name in
in
public.
public.
For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Ve'al kulam elo selichot selachanu mechanu kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam elo selichot selachanu mechalanu. Selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
I now invite you, either silently or out loud with your mics off, to recite the confession of your choosing, found on pages 307 to 314. Source of life, God, God, open unto me. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me tenderness for my toughness. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me yourself for myself. God, God, open unto me. Page 316.
We ask God to hear our voice, Shema Kolenu, and accept our prayer, the prayers of your heart that you've just shared silently, as well as these prayers that we've just said. Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachim aleinu, v'kabel berachamim uvratzon, et tefilatenu. Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachim aleinu, v'kabel berachamim uvratzon, et tefilatenu. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva. Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva. Chadesh Yameinu kekedem.
Page 318.
We invite you at the end of each of these lines to call out Amen. Please unmute yourselves to do that.
Hayom te'amtzenu. Amen.
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 Strengthen us this day. Amen.
Amen.
Hayom tevarchenu. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Bless us this day. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Hayom tegadlenu. Amen.
Amen.
This day exalt
Amen.
us. Amen.
Amen.
Hayom titchashenu latova. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Show us kindness this day. Amen.
Amen.
Hayom tichtavenu lachayim tovim. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Inscribe us this day for a life of goodness. Amen.
Amen.
Hayom tishma shavatenu. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. This day hear our cry. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Hayom titmechenu b'mi tzidchecha. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Now and
Now and
always
always.
support us with the strength of your righteousness.
Amen.
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 I'm going to ask Robin Frisch to share any announcements she might have, including a list of the times for services that are coming up. And then I will play just a little bit of music to sort of guide us out. Of course, we know the service doesn't really end today. Our services continue all the way through the end of Ne'ilah, but there will be a short break between announcements and 12:15 when we will regather for Yizkor. Robin?
Yes, I apologize first for the dog barking,
That's okay.
but I want to first thank again Rabbi Ravinspear and Rabbi Betzel for just inspiring, meaningful services. They were beautiful. Also, a special thank you to Karen Lipshire, our president, and to Spencer Rothman for the excellent technical support. Please join us for the rest of services at 12:15 p.m. There will be Yizkor. 3 p.m. will be the family service. 4:30 p.m. there will be study with Rabbi Betzel, and at 6:15 p.m. there'll be Ne'ilah. Thank you.
Shifty, shifty, met Adonai. Shifty, shifty, kol yemei chayai, lachazot b'noam Adonai. Uvaker lehechalo, lachazot b'noam Adonai, to gaze upon the beauty of Adonai. One thing I ask you, Adonai, to be with you all of my life. Achat sha'alti met Adonai. Achat sha'alti otav